Hello everyone! Many of you have already watched the pilot episode of the very popular movie from Glitch Productions called The Amazing Digital Circus. If anyone hasn't watched it, then watch it immediately. You won't regret it. By the way, the next episode called Candy Carrier Chaos has already been released. But we'll get to that yet. And discussions. What's there to discuss? We watched it, and that's fine. But it turns out The Amazing Digital Circus made a huge impression on the audience. But by what? Everything makes sense, but nothing is clear. The plot is constructed in such a way that there are more questions than answers. What? How? Why? Questions arise throughout the entire viewing experience. The Amazing Digital Circus is worth watching again and again. Then I looked at a lot of comments and guesses from viewers. But it seemed to me that they raised even more questions, and the answers, if any, were given in the form of assumptions. Assumptions of many different kinds, sometimes not even real and far-fetched. So, I decided to offer the public my own version of what is happening in the digital circus. Rest assured, I will offer something new and very interesting. I will try to guess as accurately as possible what the authors intended in this very interesting but very confusing scenario. Or maybe in their movie, the authors constantly give us clues, but we do not notice them. Let's take another close look at all the strange moments of the digital circus. In this video, I will try to highlight these strange moments and collect the questions that arise when watching Digital Circus. I think that there will be so many of them that it is not realistic to answer them in one video. So it's better to answer them in separate videos. Gathering questions? Let's go! So, from the very beginning, our attention is drawn to Entertainer Kane's warning that we're in for some of the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending paraphernalia you've ever laid your eyes upon. Oh yeah, that's what it's gonna be. So, we have a close-up of the entire circus arena. A circular circus arena? Yeah, it's the digital circus. But then, where are its audience? Who's the circus for? Well, there you have your first questions. No answers yet. Let's just remember and keep watching. And then we see the rehearsed, welcome performance of the digital circus characters on stage. I have a few more questions. So the inhabitants of the digital circus have an obligation to perform on stage? Why? But can NPC characters be programmed to do so? Why not? Who is the performance for? Who are the audience? Is it just you and me? Or is someone sitting in the audience seats in the circus itself? Remember at the beginning we were shown the circular arena of the circus? If there's an arena, there must be an audience. And what if the audience is someone watching the stories unfolding in an amazing digital circus in real time on some screens or computers? That would be good business. Okay, let's keep looking. And next, a new character suddenly appears on stage in the form of a jester or harlequin. We already know that this character will be called POMNI, but according to the story, she doesn't have a name yet. Let's just call her Newbie for now. Did you notice that no one was surprised by Newbie's appearance? Yes, it's strange to us, but as we've seen, it's a common occurrence in the digital circus. And two other interesting things. The new girl appeared on stage out of nowhere. Just boom, and there she was. And immediately she saw a red door with the word "Exit" written on it. But the door immediately shattered into pixels. A lot of people immediately started discussing this door, which will still appear unexpectedly in the plot of the movie. But we won't jump to conclusions. It's too early to make them. And here's the second weird moment. A magician's hat flying by. A magician? There was a magician here. Who is he? Show him to me. But no, there's no magician here. What if it's some kind of creator clue? Okay, let's memorize it and keep watching. And here comes the first scene. It's not funny or amusing, nothing like that. The characters are lined up on the stage, and suddenly the newbie, who lost her balance out of surprise, fell on them. After that, the characters fell. No big deal. What's the big deal? It was like dominoes falling. I thought it was weird. Did you? We'll remember. In the first minute. We'll come back to that moment. And at that time, the curtain was already up. The show had begun. Jax asked Kane, "Is this one of your NPCs, or is this a new sucker?"
Is this one of your NPCs, or is this a new sucker?
New sucker. Well, what does that mean? It means there's already been suckers. Who are they? All the other characters on this stage except Jax? Or maybe he's one too? Maybe it'll become clearer in time. So sucker. Okay, memorize it and keep watching. And then Kane said, "A new human has entered." A new human. Everyone was unanimous in their assumption of the correct understanding of this phrase. Some person puts on a VR headset for some reason and enters the digital circus. It seems that for Kane, this was also unexpected, but also very familiar. So the appearance of a new character is unpredictable. Then there are dialogues, to which we will return in the next clips. For now, let's note this moment. When RAGATHA habitually calms the newbie, she tells her that they've all been through it. This means that they have all appeared in the circus at different times. Well, that makes sense. When newbie blurted out rudely, Kane said this line, "The amazing digital circus is a place to be enjoyed by all ages." So, there is an audience. But where are they? Who are they? Further on in his conversation with newbie, Jax said they've been stuck here for years. Years? Is that serious? After the screening, many people discussed this phrase, taking it at face value. But how does Jax tell time? There's no clock. There's no calendar. No day or night. There are no windows to see anything. I don't think that sentence needs to be emphasized. The sense of time in an enclosed space is very subjective. Everyone will experience it differently. At that, Jax gave a sly look to the right. Most likely he's lying to impress the newbie more. Jax went on to say that Kinger has probably been here the longest. Maybe that's important information. Okay, let's remember that. Further into the tour of the digital circus lands, Kane hovered with a blue screen in his eyes and the sound of a modem transferring bytes of information. Is this a joke by the authors or a hint of a program bug? Here's another question for you. Looking further ahead. And next, during the tour, Kane said about the void that even he doesn't know what's in there. I see. Let's remember this moment. At the end of the same tour, POMNI, well, that wasn't POMNI. And so, newbie saw the door in the clearing again. But just now, the door wasn't there. Remember, let's keep looking. I guess no one paid attention to the little episode where Jax ripped Zubal's arm off, and then Zubal's hand started choking Jax all by itself. The first thing to point out is that characters in the digital circus don't feel pain. Well, Zubal certainly doesn't. And the second thing is that Zubal remotely controls even a severed arm, and as we'll see further on, other parts of her body as well. That's an amazing fact. Let's remember it. Another episode about the doors. Jax said that if there was a way out,
You can't!
they'd all be out of the digital circus by now. After watching the movie, many people somehow decided that neither Jax nor the other circus characters, except for POMNI, could see those doors. Doubtful, somehow. If that were the case, the circus characters would have reacted to POMNI's words about the doors labeled exit in some other way. But this episode with Jax's words clearly confirms two facts. The first fact is that Jax knows about the doors. And the second fact is that Jax knows there's no way out. He may have already walked through the doors and gotten nowhere. This may seem odd, but we'll keep this fact in mind for now. That means Jax doesn't want to tell POMNI about it. Plus, Zubal constantly stops Jax from saying anything extra about going out.
Shut up, Jax!
And tries to cut off his sentences. Why? Here's another question for you, and another thing that a lot of people noticed. While they were talking about the exit, Kane hovered again. What does that mean? And at the end of the exit talk, Kane says, POMNI, there is no magical exit door. and you're experiencing from your mind's transition to the digital plane and digital hallucinations. Why he said this? To divert Pomni's attention from finding a way out. That's probably what everyone thought. I mean, it's obvious. What if it's a clue? Pomni, you're looking in the wrong place. How's that for a clue? And, yeah. You may have noticed by now that I've started calling Newbie by her first name, Pomni. Yeah, I confess, I hurried. And so, during the Newbie naming scene, Kane said that no one can remember their name once they enter the digital circus. Well, that's an obvious clue. Everyone has, of course, turned their attention to it, and will remember it. Kane went on to say that one of the few things he can't control is the mind of the characters. The characters are human. Also, an obvious clue. Let's remember that one too, and let's keep watching. Ragatha went on to say that Kane's adventures are fun to prevent us from going insane. In the next episode, we see the Gloinks take Zooble apart, but as we see, it's not dangerous for her, but it did ask for help. Why? That's something to think about as well. Also, Jax was totally cool with the Gloinks taking Zooble apart and dragging it down the hole. Apparently it's not the first time that's happened. Then why is Zooble asking for help? Is it playing along or not? Besides, Ragatha wasn't impressed at all. She remembered KAUFMO with a smile. It means that taking Zooble apart is commonplace. Zooble somehow reassembles itself back to its original state again. After that, the Gloinks spread out Kinger's pillows, his non-criminal fortress. He's screaming hysterically. Why is he covering himself with pillows? So he can't see or hear anything. But he could have locked himself in his room. He must be very afraid of being alone. We can see that Kinger is very frightened. And he's always afraid of something. But he's even more afraid of being alone. Let's remember that fact. Next, Kinger suggests that KAUFMO's gone insane. It seems that Kinger has seen this before, and more than once. He knows what happens in such cases. That's why Kinger refused to go to KAUFMO. Kinger said that in the last conversation, KAUFMO talked nonsense about getting out. But when was that conversation? How long did KAUFMO talk about getting out? We don't know yet. Let's leave those questions for now and look further. Next, Pomni suggested that there is a way out, after all. She's still looking for a way out. Yeah, what else would she be doing? Kinger and Jax told Pomni that she's slowly losing her mind. Jax probably knows that's not true, but he wanted to mess with the newbie like he usually does at the digital circus. Next, Jax has said that fine with doing whatever, as long as I get to see funny things happen to people. To someone. But not with him. Passing the doors to the rooms, Ragatha said that they were sleeping in the rooms, though they didn't need sleep. It's not clear. Let's see further. To Pomni's question, why not try to find a way to leave? Ragatha said that they tried to find a way out when they first entered the digital circus. But after a while, they realized there was no way out. Again, the questions. Where is the exit? Is there a way out? Perhaps this is the biggest intrigue of the series. Then Ragatha said that the eternal pursuit of an unattainable goal is starting to drive you crazy. Well, we can agree with that. Ragatha wonders about the meaning of it all. And when you reach your breaking point, something really terrible can happen. And after that, you lose yourself and forget what you lived for. It's very frightening. We conclude that Ragatha has already seen characters in the digital circus who have already reached their limit. And terrible things have happened to them. And Ragatha also said that adventures give you a chance to keep yourself busy and keep your mind healthy and stimulated. What does healthy mean? Everyone understands. But what does stimulated? That's another question. Let's memorize it and look next. And then, there's another surprise. Turns out, Jax has a key to KAUFMO's room. And Jax always has a key. Nah, I've got keys everywhere, and you've all been fine. Who gave him the keys? Why? So, Kane knows about it, So Jax is allowed to have keys to everything. Why? Why? And now, for one of the most mysterious episodes. KAUFMO's room. What do we see in KAUFMO's room? The room is dark. All the walls and ceiling are scrawled with the words exit. Here's a question. How long does it take to paint all the walls and ceiling with these words? We also see paintings in the room. The paintings show dark exits to nowhere. One painting has a clown that looks like KAUFMO and says, "No exit." We also see Kane's jaw and eyes painted on the wall, and Kane's hand holding a running clown. The words, "No way out," are written next to it. It's all saying something. KAUFMO and his room should probably be discussed separately, so we just keep looking around his room. And we see on one picture, there is something black painted all over the picture, and a lot of eyes. Apparently, it's an abstraction of one of the characters, and it impressed KAUFMO a lot. Another painting shows a clown standing in a doorway, and a large black creature with many eyes, similar to the current KAUFMO. And we also see a painting of a portrait of an ordinary man. Maybe KAUFMO was painting himself in an ordinary life. That means he remembered something. There, another clue from the authors. Let's remember all this and look at the next one. A furious KAUFMO lashed out at RAGATHA. KAUFMO probably had no reason to be so angry with RAGATHA. After all, he had not written her name on the walls and ceiling of his room, but the word exit, so he was just out of control. It must have been a very large outburst of anger. Well, people do that sometimes, very rarely. That's how it is with digital circus characters when they reach their limit. That means that when a digital circus character reaches the limit of his patience, he has a big temper tantrum, stops controlling himself, and turns into something black, shapeless, and horrible. Now it becomes clear why the Kinger was so badly frightened. But let's not jump to conclusions and look further. And then we see Jax escaping from an enraged KAUFMO and pushing Kinger and GANGLE into the black hole into which the Gloinks dragged Zooble. And then Jax himself somehow habitually jumped into that black hole. Jax knows something and therefore isn't afraid of black holes? Let's see. In the next scene, we see the Gloink Queen eating objects and immediately spitting them out of her second head. Even though she looked kind of creepy, it turns out there's no danger in her. Another clue. At the same place, Kinger again asked about some kind of insect collection.
Insect collection?
Why? What does that mean? A collection of insects. Let's memorize it and keep looking. And then the Gloink Queen wanted to scare everyone, but Jax wasn't going to scare her. Jax told the Gloink Queen that it would be better to ask his consent first. What does that mean? Is he just showing off? Maybe he knows that Kane's adventures are ultimately harmless and there's no need to fear their consequences? Or is he not an ordinary character here? Not like all the others? Here's another interesting question for you. And then we see a long scene of Pomni walking, or rather running, through corridors with doors, after Pomni has entered the door labeled exit. This episode also needs to be treated separately, so let's not waste time and look further. Next, Gangle asks the question,
KAUFMO abstracted?
To which Jax gives her a very surprising answer. Nah, he's fine.
Nah, he's fine.
What does that mean? Is he really fine? Or is this just another of Jax's sarcasm? It's a very ambiguous answer, but we'll look for answers later. Next up, the escalator. He wasn't there. It's like a quest. The characters in the digital circus have completed Kane's quest and have access to the exit from the Gloink Queen's burrow. Let's remember this. Another moment, when Pomni, running down the hallways with doors, goes out into the void. Kane said a weird line. Someone's venturing out into the void. They'll get totally spoiled. What does that mean? Let's remember. Let's keep watching. Kane brings Pomni back to the circus, and Kinger reports to Kane that KAUFMO went through a sort of kaufmosis and abstracted. Kaufmosis? What does that mean? It doesn't make any sense. Next, we see the basement where Kane has sent the abstracted KAUFMO with his magic cane. The basement looks like a dark prison. There's a liquid like water on the floor. And darkness. But we see that there are already creatures there that look like the abstracted KAUFMO. That means a lot. We'll come back to this storyline again. And then we see another strange moment that few people paid attention to. Zubul's body assembled itself and came to it, and put her head back on. That's it! It assembled itself. It came to her, it put its head back on. Don't you think that's weird? Here's another clue from the authors. Afterward, Zubul says it thought Kinger, not KAUFMO, would abstract next. Maybe that information means something too. Maybe it does. Let's keep looking. Next, RAGATHA comes crawling in, who glitches and says she's in a lot of pain. A lot of pain? So do circus characters experience pain or not? We'll have to think about that one. At the end, Kane offered a delicious digital feast as a reward, and Kinger said the characters don't need to eat, drink, or sleep in this digital world. So why the feast? Final scene. The feast episode. It is most likely a reference to the Last Supper, Leonardo, where Pomni takes the place of Jesus Christ. Is that a joke, or another clue from the authors? But we can see that at this time, Pomni has a realization of complete incomprehension, loneliness, and hopelessness. Maybe she feels like she's in a mental institution instead of a dream. Whoa! No. I may have overdone the clinic thing. Still, that's a good place to stop. Subscribe to my channel. In the next few videos, we'll be sure to look at everything and everyone in more detail. We will try to find answers to the questions, and we will try to collect clues from the authors and interpret them correctly. Bye, everybody. See you all again.